Hey guys, so just a quick recap on what we have covered so far. So we did have the skeleton of the screen in, we got this randomly generated, we got the answer total randomly generated, we also had the options randomly generated. Now the next thing we need to do is on click of this identify if this is the correct answer or no. And that's where our results answer field will help us out. So if you have already caught up, that's fantastic. If not, I would say go back, check the videos and code with me. So now that we have our riddle example created, we need to make sure that on click of this something happens. And of course this on click is in the quiz options. So we need to make sure we pass the on click in the fields outside. So let's say on click, but if I do an on click out here, it will not have the answer or the riddle object because all I'm passing is the options. So that's where you can use the parent, which means you can pass a function from the parent to the child and then call that child's properties when you have that. So let's do that. Let's say go back to the quiz. Out here I pass in an option, say check result is equals to this dot check results. Okay, now this method needs to be defined as well as it needs to be binded. Let's do that. Let's go to the constructor. Let's add this dot bind this, and this should save. Let's also add this check results just above here. So let's say here we add check results. Now in the check results, what it does is it will just validate. So for now we will just say console.log check results called. Okay, now we save that, should refresh. Now the quiz options are getting a property called check results. So we can just go to the quiz options and say on click is equals to this dot call parent check options. Okay, so I call the parent check options, which means I need to define it, otherwise it will fail. So let's create the constructor, let's bind it, this dot check call parent options is equals to this dot call parent options dot bind dot in the bracket this. Now let's just create that function out here which is called parent check options. Let's go here and just call this dot props dot check results. Let's save it and let's see what happens on the screen. We have an error which says this check results is not a function, and this is happening in call parameters, which means this is not a function. Let's call this without the function parameters, and yes, check results gets called 4 times. So it gets called every time it gets iterated, which means every time it gets rendered it is getting called versus only on the click. So the reason this is getting called 4 times is we are passing this as a function call, so it should not be called. Similarly out here in the quiz.js we should not call it, we should just have this dot check results, so nothing should be called here. Now when you click something, does it get called? Does it get called? No, not yet, it's not getting called. So let's go back to the quiz results and make sure this is a function. Now let's try it. Check results, fantastic, it gets called. Easy, right? Now we've got it to work. The way it is working is in the quiz options you call a check results. The check results method or the function is in the parent. When you go to the child quiz options, you will also call another function which just calls the parent function. So you have a function call and internally you make the call out here. Make sure you pass the brackets correctly, otherwise it will not work. And the reason I did all that was to show you that even I have made mistakes on, in fact, plenty of times. So make sure when to pass in the function call versus when to just pass in the function name. So now that we have the options, we also have the click working, but it is very difficult to identify what the value was clicked. So I don't know if I've clicked 63, 51, 52 or probably 46 out here. So it will not be clear because all I display is check results. Now the way we can do it is we can pass in the options. So what we can do out here is we can do a this.props.option. Now once I have the option value, I know that there is a value that is getting passed. But however, even now when I click, nothing will happen because I don't have the option is getting passed to the parent, but the parent is not passing it to the function call. Which means to the parent, it's not getting passed to the function call out here. So I need to make sure that I get the options here, and the way you can do it is using ES6. So you get the option and you pass it as a function to the calling function. So let's say you pass the option. Now when you go and say option out here and just say this is equals to plus option, let's save it and now let's see what happens. So I got in here, let me click here, and the answer, the click was 59, the click was 89, 71 and 70. Similarly, if I refresh it, I'll get new set of numbers 43, 60, 64. Now the task is very easy. All I need to do is compare this options number to my result, which is the answer I already have in the result, and I can say if it's a correct answer or wrong answer. So let's do that. So if this.state.riddle.answer is triple equals to option, if it is equal, then do a console.log, say correct answer. If not, say, let's copy this console log so it's easier, I don't have to type it again, and say wrong answer. So now that I've saved it, let's try to click it. It says wrong answer because 87 is 95. Let's refresh. 79, wrong answer. Let's do a correct one, which is 92. Let's click it and it should say correct answer. So now with the click, I can also identify if it's a correct answer or a wrong answer. Now that we have this, let's create a state quickly. So let's go to the constructor and let's create a state which is, let's say, correct is equals to false to start with. Let's make sure we pass in the correct, and let's also create something called as a game over because we need to make sure that the game is running or game is over. To start with, game over is false and then it becomes true the moment the answer is clicked. So when we go back to our answer, check results, we need to make two state updates here. So this dot set state, and out here we will say correct is true and game over is true. In the next one, what we will say is correct is false, but the game is still over because you already clicked a button. Let's go and refresh the page. Nothing should happen, but the states will be changed. So let's also go and print that out here. Just above play, let's say this dot state dot correct hyphen let's say correct is something and game over is, again, this is just to showcase what the values will be at the start of the game as well as when you click the buttons. So you can see both are nothing, both are false. Okay, I need to put something else, which is this is true, else this is false. Let me copy this out. Yeah, that's the problem with the booleans. If you need to display a text onto the screen, you need to make sure it's true or false. Okay, now both are giving false. Let's add a BR so it's readable. Fantastic. Now let's go and click something. The wrong answer and the game value is true and the correct answer is false. So now you can also track the state of the game with the right answer and the game over. Let me refresh it. Both should become false. let's do a correct answer, which is 51. And this is correct answer on the console, as well as you have a correct answer out there in the game over. Easy, right? So now you've also determined when the game gets completed. In the next lecture, what we will see is the animation, as well as on how the new div comes in, where you can have the result printed to the user versus just a game over, true or correct true, so that the user knows that the game is over. And we will also see how we click on the play again button and they can play a new game. Okay, I'll see you in the next class.